What's up, everybody, and welcome to episode 72 of the Bladeology podcast. We're about to jump into it as always, but we did want to thank our sponsors, the New Jersey Steel Baron. They have everything you need in one stop. You can get the steel, you can have it water jet, you can have it surface ground, and then you can have it sent out. So not only are they offering the famously awesome Hitachi steel, the Aogami blue, and the Shirogami white, but really, the Baron is offering water jet services. The hardest thing in our industry is constant supply of parts and other things you need to actually build the knives, and usually that chokes up at the water jet. So hit up the Baron, get your steel water jet, get it surface ground, and get it heat treated. Everything you need in one stop. NewJerseySteelBaron.com. They do work for some of the largest guys in the industry, and they're busting those timelines. So hit them up. Get it on time. Get it right. NewJerseySteelBaron.com. All right, we're going to jump into this like we do every week. Welcome to another episode of the Bladeology podcast. We are here in person, live, three people sitting at a table, staring at microphones, staring at each other cross-eyed ways. This is your host, Jeremiah Burbank. I'm here with my co-host, Nick Chuprin. How you doing?
Great.
Good. And we're on with our consummate and regular guest, Mr. Chuck Gudradis. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Happy to be here.
Good. All right, so the three of us traveled to the Great Salt Lake, the city in the sand. It's drying up over there. They'll be okay. For Blade Show West. It was the westerly version of Blade Show. You got Blade Show Atlanta, you got Blade Show Texas. This is Blade Show West in Salt Lake City. So this resembles Blade Show Texas, if you've done that before. If you haven't done that before, this resembles the second room at Blade Show, essentially, is what this is. We've got the booths in the back of the room, and then when you walk in, we've got tables in the front. Chuck was exhibiting, Nick was exhibiting. They were both at tables. I was running around, writing checks and shaking hands, kissing babies. That's my job. Buying knives. These guys were selling knives, and we're going to go over the whole process. Nick and I got there, we got there late on Wednesday. We took a red eye out of Logan Airport in Boston, Massachusetts, flew all the way to Salt Lake City, Utah, where we stayed in La Quinta, which was a pleasure. Let's just say it was a pleasure. And then we spent all day Thursday cruising around the city. We got breakfast at the
Rose Establishment.
And soon after that, I'm skipping it. I'm sorry. We rented a Dodge Charger, which
was fun.
Not comfortable.
That was not comfortable. It was just fun to drive. I would not buy one. No. Renting one for like a couple days, yeah.
Totally fine.
It's all engine, and that's it.
I was immediately in tune with my 16-year-old self, and he was smiling. And then my 30-something-year-old self was like, "This shit's uncomfortable. I can't see anything.
Can I get the radio to work?
Fucking radio's terrible." I'm sorry to any Dodge Charger drivers out there in our audience. I'm sure it's an amazing car. For some people, as a rental, it was fun. I mean, it could get out of its own way, as I heard Chuck say previously. And but yeah, so we had this. So we were eventually not going to rent a car, but our friends down at the Blade headquarters invited us down to take a tour, a little factory tour. It's not really a factory, but it's another dealer. I'm sure you're all very aware of the Blade headquarters, the Blade HQ as it's more commonly called. So Nick and I went down there. We spent like a few hours down there.
Yep, Timote gave us the full tour of the place.
Yeah.
Spent some time bullshitting.
I did that last year. I took the tour.
Did you?
Yeah.
Did you? So when you went down there, it was probably actually filled with stuff. When we went down there, it was practically empty.
It was practically empty with production stuff.
Oh, okay.
They had moved everything to their Blue Ridge facility in Virginia.
Yeah.
But I got to see the secret rooms. Where some stuff.
He's talking about the ping pong
behind the
tournament
scenes,
area.
Yeah, the ping pong area. You saw that. I know. I see you. Timote asked if we wanted to get down on some table tennis. I respectfully declined. I am no good at that kind of thing.
Yeah, me too. I was like, nah, just gonna whip my ass, and then you're gonna hold this up for me.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Like, this is one of those moments. Like, I'll get down on some beer pong. That's chill. Like, okay. But table tennis, not so much. We saw the showroom was disassembled when we went. They had a whole grand plan for reassembling the showroom. There's lots of stuff there that we're not going to talk about. We were sworn to secrecy. But yeah, the place is almost empty. If you're unfamiliar or you've never been to the Blade HQ place in Salt Lake City, it's like going to a real thing. It's very strange because it's like a very serious company. Whereas, like, I feel like a lot of other, and I don't mean it like that, not that PVK is not a serious company. I mean, it's a very serious company here. Lots of, whatever. But Blade HQ is like, 20, 30, 40 employees, massive overhead. They have a dev department. They have studios. It was cool. It was pretty neat. It was really neat to see that operation and how it went. Timote dragged us around upstairs, downstairs, sideways, upways. It was great. It was very cool. I think we actually saw a lot of stuff, which I'm not going to talk about. Yeah. Okay. So I guess actually that was, yeah. So Blade HQ is great.
We weren't told what we could talk about. We can't, but it's just not.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
But it was a great tour. Yeah. The area they're in was really pretty. Like, it was surrounded by mountains. So that was, the drive out there was nice because it was getting away from the city, which I was hoping to do more of. So that was like the moment, just because it was cloudy and like rainy the entire couple first days.
Surprised it really doesn't rain too much in that area, from my experience talking to people. But on Thursday it was super rainy. I don't mind the rain. We're leaving a fall New England. I like cloudy days, so I was totally cool. Didn't go to the Salt Flats. Too wet for that. Just would have sunk in, though we had the right car for it. So perhaps some other time. How did that go? That went well. And then Blade HQ for a while drove, right, so that was our discovery of, so Salt Lake has the same liquor store sort of situation that New Hampshire does. It's sort of state-owned liquor stores, state-owned and run. So we went to the liquor store after Blade HQ, which was fine. It's very strange.
They didn't have great, it's a big place that had not a great selection except for wine.
Physically large inventory was not phenomenal. But that's okay. So we grabbed a couple bottles. We grabbed something Japanese. I don't remember the name of it. What did you grab? Booker's.
Basil Hayden, like always.
Right, yeah. We headed north. We headed to the show to discover the Salt Palace. Side note, addendum. If you are unaware of the history of the Salt Palace, I encourage you, as you're listening to this, to take a moment and Google it. It is phenomenal. I don't know if you guys are not. So, quickly, just again, Google it's easier. The Salt Palace used to be a palace on the Salt Lake. Like, if you look it up, it looks like a Taj Mahal, and it was actually on the lake. Like, it's massive, standing on like 30-foot stilts. Beautiful, like 60s, 70s style. Like, it burned down 3 different times over the last few decades, and they just said screw it. Like, they were like, okay, like, this is cursed. So that thing that we were at is like, it's a sad pale comparison to what it used to be. I mean talking like mini Taj Mahal on the Salt Lake, like 30 feet above the water. Beautiful, like resort style casino, like just really, all politics and religion aside, architectural amazement. And now it's just, it's a convention center called the Salt Palace, but the original one, look up, it's really cool. Thursday we did badge pickup, a little bit of setup. Went to Walmart like 4 different times for Nick, and then eventually we also for John. Oh, son of a gun! John never paid back for the Velcro. Son of a
public notice, John. He owed your money.
Went to Walmart for John to pick up some Velcro.
and you needed a tablecloth. They didn't bring a tablecloth.
Usually there's a full black one for the tables that covers the top and sides. They just have the side curtain, and I was like, I don't want to display on this plastic top. So yeah, we have to go. Because my tablecloth, I don't really fly with it because it weighs like 15 pounds, takes up half my luggage. So I usually just do that exact thing, just go to Walmart and just buy something on the spot.
We should get you like a tablecloth though, like an actual tablecloth.
Yeah, I have it. Just one. Flying, it take a lot of space and weight.
Well, they have these new ones that actually it's like almost like a fitted bed sheet that stretches over the front and the top of the table. You can get it embroidered on the front or screen printed, so you can put.
Yeah, I looked at those. I was just looking at getting a 4-side where the back is empty because mine covers all sides and it's really thick material, so just really heavy.
We could ship it too. So the Blade Show, the awesome, amazing, beautiful, wonderful people at Blade Show, sent us an email for Blade Show West, and it had all kinds of shipping instructions, which I don't remember seeing for regular Blade Show, but this year Blade Show West, they were like, oh, here's like dock information. So in the future.
Yeah, I also they sent me an email price comparing all the near hotels and how far they are from the convention center and pricing with tax and fees to every hotel. Like the 6 surrounding hotels.
All right. Interesting.
You know what they did differently this year is the hotel was non-refundable within 2 weeks. So if you didn't cancel your room before the 2-week notice, they charged you full price. Because I got charged 2 weeks before the show started. And I said, why is this charge on my credit card? I haven't even been to the show yet.
Yeah. So
I checked in. They took a card for incidentals, which I had none. So when I left, my balance was $0.
Interesting. That's a weird way of doing it. Okay. Whatever works. I feel like even though we've all done this a bunch of times, I think every time they host a show, you refine it a little bit, change and tweak things. As it should be. Try to make things better, easier for people, easier for exhibitors, easier for people.
Make it run more smoothly and more organized. Absolutely.
Yeah. And then so we did badge pickup. Went to Walmart, a few different times. That was cool. And then you, Chuck, flew in on Thursday night. So basically the same flight we did, right?
Correct. Yep. Okay. Same flight, although ours was delayed leaving Boston by an hour and a half because we had a weight distribution program issue. So they had to restart it a few times, get it signed off on, and then we finally left. So when we arrived in Salt Lake, it was 10 p.m. Salt Lake time. And my son and I brought him with me to his first knife show, he just turned 16. We ended up eating dinner at the airport because all of the restaurants around the hotel would have been closed.
Yeah, we got to our hotel on Wednesday at 9, and we're just everything's closed.
That's it.
Do you want to be sad and just order McDonald's at the hotel room?
Yeah, and we didn't want to have McDonald's.
Do you want to just eat Chipotle in your boxers while sitting in a bed?
Or Domino's? No thanks.
Yeah, no. That's right. So he had turned 16, so he was already...
He just turned 16 this past Tuesday.
This past Tuesday?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. As in this Tuesday?
Yeah.
Okay, so he was 15 at the show then.
He was.
Jeez. It was his first night show. And so he did some, I'm air quoting here, work for the show.
He did.
Right?
He made some worry stones
Very good.
As stepping stones to be able to learn how to use some of my equipment, bandsaws, belt grinders, hand sanding, the buffer, things like that.
Yeah.
So, and I think he was inspired at the show.
Okay.
He did get a business card that was a water jet little dagger.
Oh, yeah.
And he's excited to work on that and maybe use that as a pattern and make some of his own, maybe tweak the design a little. He asked me for it yesterday. I said, we mailed it.
Yeah, you can't.
I didn't put it in my carry-on.
No.
So he'll be excited to get it back tonight or tomorrow.
Oh, that's good. So there's interest there in making things, working with his hands.
Kinda. I think he's got to find his own niche. I've said to him, come downstairs. You can build anything you want, no matter how vicious or unpractical it is.
Sure.
It goes back to when I was a kid and you'd get those ninja magazines and want to make throwing stars and throwing darts and those wall climbing claws and all kinds
weapons.
of stuff. I used to glue razor blades together and turn them into throwing stars.
Sure. Whatever works, man.
It didn't last very long.
It'll just blow up on impact.
That's all right.
Yeah, sometimes. Some of them had a hole in the center so you could put a nut and bolt through it.
And that would just become a mace. That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
That's inventive.
Nails and tennis balls.
Sure.
Okay. All kinds of stuff.
Barbed wire baseball bat. Okay. So the thing is, it's like the guitar. he needs to come to the knife show and see all the hot girls that are okay. Anyway, see all the hot. Okay, there's no. All right,
Wrong show.
Oh, yeah, wrong show. Okay, he needs to see all the the excited
The eye candy,
collectors,
the knife and
the knife candy,
and customer candy.
right?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, that's. I think it's great to absolutely just support him, bring him to the show, get him out into the world. I don't know, kids. It's like a dog, I guess. You have to socialize it or something, or it gets like upset.
You got to get him to talk to people and
Right.
actually be a salesman. And it shows him, he sees all the work I do up until the show,
Okay,
but he doesn't also see the work it takes to get there,
sure.
to set up, to be behind the table all day, to talk to people all day. And then you finally get to relax and you go out to dinner, and then you got to do it all over again the next day.
That's it.
And then you got to come home.
Oof.
And so, it's grueling, but it's better than working for someone.
That's true.
you
Yeah.
know? And now that he's 16 and he needs to get a job, I said, you can work for me, or you can go push shopping carts at the grocery store. And,
Right.
I don't think you want to do that.
That's not that much fun. You don't want to do that. Hang out with Dad, learn how to make stuff, and go to shows and then sell the stuff. Yeah, no, it's definitely we've talked about this before. Show prep is grueling. You build stuff for the show, travel, worry about carry on, check luggage. I mean, it's like traveling, except imagine it's just traveling with weapons. Essentially, is what you're doing, and there's a lot of logistics involved in that as to how to pack it and how to ship it.
Get
and
them
then,
there and hope that they get there.
Hopes they get there. Sure, absolutely. Yeah, no, it's a lot. So Thursday sounds like you guys got there. So you guys got in about an hour late, hour and a half or so late?
Yeah, we got to the hotel around 10 p.m.
Okay.
So an hour and a
All right.
half later than normal, and then basically went to bed.
Nice. Okay. Cool. And then so Thursday was pre-show. So I didn't no room sales on Thursday night at this Blade show. Not for me anyway.
No, we were pretty far away from the convention center, about like 30 minutes out.
Yeah.
With the Hawk crew.
That's right. That was fun. That was an experience. Getting off. It was nice so the drive during the day was very bucolic. The mountains, we were on the edge of the mountain range. I think I would say we were at the foothills of the Wasatch Front, I believe is what the side we were on. I'm sure someone will correct me. No one will ever correct me. It was on the east side of the city. So it was either the Uintas or the Wasatch Front. Friday morning was good. We got up on time. We were out of the house. We got to the venue, got Nick set up. How was your setup on Friday, Chuck?
It was good. We got there about 9 a.m., set up, put knives out. I told my son, go walk around, go check things out, go get stickers and free T-shirts and whatever else, and just take it all in. It's an experience.
Yeah, people are friendly at shows. I mean,
Absolutely.
if you're there, knife shows are great. Nobody, right, stickers, candy at the table, no one cares. Totally fine. It's a very, very welcoming crew. And I mean, if he does, the more he comes to shows, if he continues to come, I think he will build up his own reputation, obviously, as, that's whatever. They'll know you, they'll know him as your son.
Yeah.
And I think that's the other level of like, then you have the maker's kids, and then everyone kind of knows who they are. So,
Well, it's great. I mean,
extra
like
nice.
John Gray came up to him while we were setting up, and he shook his hand, introduced himself, and he looked right at him and said, "I hate your dad."
That sounds right. That sounds like something John would say.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Nick, what about you? How was your Friday setup? How was Friday morning rush? You set up. Let's get.
I think
into
we
that.
got in at like 9 o'clock as well.
Yeah.
It took about 30 minutes to set up. Because on Thursday we did the pre-setup, and a bowl of candy out. We'll forget Friday morning. This one kid did the Costco sampler special. It's always funny. People look at me like, "Can I have more? Just take as much as you want." And like this one kid took one, make a lap around the row, come back, take another one. And I was like, "That's the same kid." He did it like 3 or 4 times, and I was just like, "Kid, you can take whatever you want." He's like, "Oh, I was just trying to get one of each." And I was like, "Just do it.
Just stand here and do that.
Yeah.
Just take one of each.
Everybody had candy out. My son kept coming back to the table with pocketfuls of candy. I'm like, where's mine? He's like, okay, you can have this one.
You can have. He was the.
You eventually came by my
complete
table and just took my candy.
He was like, all right.
I don't usually do that. I feel like I was at a manufacturing show 2 weeks prior, and they did it, but we were at Walmart 3 or 4 times, and because it's Halloween season, there was just candy in every aisle.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, I'm just get some candy.
Just
The hard
get
part wasn't eating them, but thankfully I only ate like 2 throughout the weekend, which is a win.
I had a fair amount of candy. I'm not gonna lie. I had a fair amount of candy. Doors on Friday. It was great. So early there was a fairly sized line for the VIP, which was at 10. I think 10 to 10:30, something like that. There was a good sized line for that. Always awesome to see. Alicia was out there with her triangle, having a great time, getting everybody ramped up to get in those doors for the first come, first serves on Friday morning. Show stayed pretty busy throughout on Friday. Friday was a good day. I think so. Chuck, you were dead nuts center. So, I mean, you walk in the door. Chuck was front and center, literally the first table, the first row, middle.
Correct.
How did you find that placement?
I feel like people either came in and went to the left or the right. They didn't necessarily come right to the middle and pick a side. Traffic wise, I feel that maybe I would have done better if I was in the second row where I was last year, because people come in, they get settled, and if they go left or right, they start and they go around and they basically miss the middle of the front row.
That's true. Okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
So if you're a little further back, then you're more immersed in the rest of the show.
That's like a wave effect, or like water, like a wave like rushes in and hits that first wall, and it actually like curves up and goes over the first wall and then settles in the grooves. So I mean, right, maybe the second or third row might have been a little better.
I feel like that's at every show, because like I personally do the same thing if I'm not exhibiting. I see the first row like at the end of the show.
Like the last
I go
thing.
past that, yeah, and I go like towards the back, and I work myself way back in. But yeah, I've always just kind of done that. I think most people do.
I think there's a psychological effect. So like, it might be me or maybe people in general, but like when I enter a room, what I want to do is I want to get to the back of the room or to the center of the room as soon as possible. I don't want to be in the front of the room. I don't like the sort of idea of I don't mind being front and center, but when you enter someplace, I don't want to feel like I stop. So like I'm running in someplace, then you just stop at the first thing and you're like, there's a whole room. Like sometimes people just like get in there and they want to go back and then work your way forward. So it's funny, actually, it's got the email for re-signing up our contract for next year. And I was going to try to figure out, a couple things. So you found placement, and then this buffers right into my next question for Nick, because Nick was at the opposite end of the spectrum. So Nick was 2 rows in from the last row of tables. So you guys were kind of diametrically opposed, but similar, sort of in the middle there. And Nick, I know that I'll ask you, but how do you feel your table placement was? I already know, but how was it?
So in the beginning, it was really good. Like someone came that was waiting in line for the early birds came right over. He ended up buying the Ragnarok V2 number 1. I only have one dose so far. Been holding on to it for a bit, but decided to bring it. And it was doing pretty good in the beginning. At a certain point, there was a lull where I noticed the whole middle section of the tables just went dead. For like the second half of the show, essentially. The first like 3 rows were kind of good, and then the very last row was good.
Yes.
And then like the 6 rows in the middle just went dead. But then I would look behind me. Usually this is reverse, where tables kind of get good action and boots just get kind of flowing, walking the action through. Where I just looked behind me, the entire day of Friday, the boots were packed.
Yes.
Except like I heard the very back wall wasn't.
Back right was just totally vacant.
Yeah, I think that's also just how close they were to the back wall.
Yes.
Like usually there's more space, or the back wall is facing you with people, or the back wall is just passed through and dead, and it was the exterior of the building.
Yeah.
But like that's you see that with that kind of stuff. I have exhibited at Blade Show with the back wall, like the back corner. It gets very little flow through traffic. Like people only go there when they want to go there.
It's dicey.
But the majority of the booth areas, like they were pretty busy the entire time,
I have to
except
say, yes.
Saturday morning. Everyone was dead. I mean, the whole show was dead for like the first hour and a half because everyone was outside looking at the eclipse.
So as I was walking around the show, I will mirror, Nick, what you said, which was if you looked at the Blade Show map and you just drew a circle in the very center of the table area, and like the honeycombs of the tables, that area was very, very slow, like afternoons Friday and then a lot of Saturday. It was very weird because there were people behind Nick, there were people in front of Nick, and in behind you, which would be that sort of weird zone where they have the sort of crew there. They have like the Osier,
Pena.
superlative guys. They all they're all right in that row together, which is smart on their part. They sort of hang out as a crew. I think they attract similar customers. But yes, buffering back the contract and the email, I was going to ask for different table placement, on Nick's behalf, obviously.
Well, when I started doing Blade Show, like 2001, I was in the 26th row, and this was when they only had Blade Show Atlanta. And the problem was within the first 5 rows, people would spend all their cash. And then from row 6 to 15, they would put knives on their credit card. And then after that, they were out of money. So by the time they got to you, they were broke, and they said, oh, this is a great knife. I would have bought it. I've already spent all my money. So table placement is a big part, unless you're having a lottery. And if you're having a lottery, then it doesn't really matter because people are going to find you. They can put in for your lottery based on what time it is. And then you're either texting, doing a beep beep lottery, or pulling names or numbers or whatever. So it doesn't really matter where you are as long as your customers find you and then come back for your specific lottery time.
Yeah. Like your placement, Chuck's placement at Blade Show Atlanta, I feel like that's really good placement. I like that. Like I know where you are.
I've been there
like
for 20 years.
That's a good spot.
The 5th row.
Like that's
Yeah.
that water effect we're talking about. Like you're not in front, you're not all the way to the back. You're like just like a couple rows in. Like it's easy to find you. Like it's like good placement. You know, I was talking to Nick about this, just because your setup and his setup are a bit different. But I was talking to Nick about getting a flag or something because I think those are great. Like we go to shows and we see these flags or these banners. It's very easy to find people, and like your Nick's logo would look great on like just a small flag. Someone down the road from us had that. They had like a little
it's a little triangle like
what
flag.
are those called? Like
I don't know.
Pennant maybe? A pennant flag? It's like the triangle flag.
It's flag.
But there's like a
whatever. It travels easier than the banners over.
Right, exactly.
Back in the day, I had one of those that go on your table and they're the full length.
Yeah.
I think I used it for 2 shows a long time ago, but again, it's like it takes the whole weight. It's a lot of weight for travel.
Sure.
Like East Coast shows, not a big deal. Usually I drive to them.
Mm-hmm.
But West Coast shows, like I'm flying. So
Yeah.
like my setups for West Coast shows are always like just the mats. I'll get a cloth in the local area.
Mhm.
Recently I started 3D printing stuff to make the table look not just with like flat knives.
Yeah.
But yeah, I gotta build like a new West Coast like flying setup because even like the banners that I used to bring, they're all outdated from New York City and stuff like that. I just gotta make new stuff for the shows. I don't like it to look very bland.
I know exactly what you need, Nick. Exactly.
Inflatable whaling wing suit man.
No, pyrotechnics.
Oof,
Pyrotechnics who
that's a good sell. I like that.
get
Sure.
banned from all shows ever again.
Just look for the sparklers.
Yeah. I think we could manage a small flag on a stick for your table. I think that needs
Telescoping.
just like a tent pole.
Yeah.
Like a tent pole, like something that's very low profile in your luggage.
No, I made
it
the
would help
last one out of
greatly.
PVC and I cut it to the length of my luggage and
Yeah.
then just the fittings and painted it black. Like I'll do the same thing,
That's
just
not bad.
one post. I just need like two bars of PVC and 2 fittings.
That'd be great. I think that should definitely get done, especially because you have your logo and stuff. I just at the show they have the superlative banners. They're very easy. And at Blade Show Atlanta, in my mind, like I know where Chuck's table is, and I know when I'm standing at Chuck's table, I know how many steps I have to get to the Valentin's table because the Valentin have the big banner, so it's easy. I can just look over there and go there. That's my next table is Chuck, and then the Valentin. So.
Yeah, that's how I navigate tables too. When I'm not exhibiting, I'm just wandering. I'm just like when I find someone, I'm like, hey, they're like 4 tables over from that other person's banner.
Right, exactly.
It's hard because the maps tell you the names on the booth spots,
Mm-hmm.
but the table spots on the maps are blank. So you have to go to the other page, look at the glossary, and then they're like, okay, that's 6A, and then you got to go look at the tables again, go 6A, and then you just kind of get lost when you're walking because also the rows themselves aren't always marked properly. I don't know if they actually marked these rows. Blade Show usually has markers I didn't notice if they had them here.
This show was a little better, but again,
They even have markers on the floor now. They had signs.
they did. The cartographers that work for Blade Show should get a raise. That's all I'm gonna say.
They're doing better.
They're doing better. They're doing better. There's some bullet points on the to-do list that I'd like to see checked off on the map and then also in real life, because every row should just have on the floor like you're in row whatever, like
But
this
the letter at the end of the row on the floor.
like giant, like
yeah.
fucking huge, like just massive. I mean, I don't know. There's only so much you can do to make a show navigable, and then you have to rely on the people knowing or having an idea of what booth they want to go to in what row. I understand that, but this year it was better. On the floor there were markers.
Okay, I didn't really walk around except at a bathroom once, so I didn't really see or pay attention to that.
Yeah, there were. So yeah, the table thing, the table placement. So I don't know, Chuck. I know you have your table because of seniority at the front there, right?
Yeah, they had a cancellation. They said, "Oh, we're going to move you up to the front."
Okay.
And now I think I'll ask to be moved a little further back again.
I wonder if that we must be able to put in requests on the form. Perhaps we. Okay. Cool.
I originally thought I had a corner up until the day of the show.
It was null nice.
Yeah, it was no nice, but it
was an emailing issue. It's whatever. I would say, as someone who was walking around a great deal, the booth setup was great. I thought it was well done. It was at first when I was walking around, I'm like, this doesn't really make any sense. And however, it was slightly illogical, but it allowed for pockets of popularity. Obviously, the Microtech Heretic booth was sort of kitty cornered back to back, but then you had like the Spyderco booth over here, the Hawk booth over here. There were enough booths pairing where it was like obviously like the super popular booth here, and then that would also attract you to the slightly other. And again, I'm saying popularity from my perspective of the industry as far as popularity goes, but no, the booth thing was well put. I thought they did a good job, sort of sprinkling people in there and knowing who was going to attract what crowd. As always, Salt Lake, the home of alternative skate culture, just skate culture in general, I think might still be Seattle. I don't know. There were skater kids.
And only at night.
In Salt Lake. I saw them during the day.
Just at night, every big corner had them.
Ballet Song kids.
Right. And getting to, sure. So there were a lot of ballet songs at Blade West, because Blade West used to be in California, and then before that it was in Portland. So I feel like the westerly winds have carried the Blade Show ballet song crew in a concise way with the show, because there were a lot of ballet kids at the show, which was awesome. Great to see. I know that's sort of like a mixed thing at regular Blade Show, but the kids seemed to have a great time at this show. Attracted a lot of people. Squid Industries had a massive booth. And then the other ballet guys were kind of centrally located around them, which I think is smart for Blade Show to do, sort of keep those guys next to each other, because you sort of do get these pods of flippers that pop up.
Yeah, there was like one row of tables that were just custom ballet makers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And to all the flippers out there, it's usually nice if you ask if you can pick up someone's and flip it, not just pick it up off the table and start flipping it.
Chuck, are you speaking from experience? Whatever do you mean?
I did have to mention to a young lad who came up to my table and just picked up my ballet song and started flipping it. And I said, look, it's usually nice to ask, because if you drop it and maybe deform the tip accidentally, you've bought it. Or if you drop it on another knife that I now have to repair because you've scratched it and I have to take that off of the table, now I'm missing out on a sale. So word to the wise, please ask before you pick up someone's knife to start flipping it.
Absolutely. And you know what? I hear that, and I'll back that up with, honestly, you should do that with any knife at a knife show. I do that basically any maker that I talk to, whether or not I know them or otherwise. It's people would rather that you ask.
I do the same thing. I mean,
just ask. They're gonna say yes. But
makers that I've known for 20 years,
sure,
and I still ask if I can pick up their knife.
That's it. Or even Chinese knives, like whatever, like Israel. Like I'm like, Israel, do you mind if I pick this up? Just it also you have to consider it's not even. Sometimes it's not even the knife itself. Sometimes it's the attention of the person at the table. You're asking someone, hey, can I pick this up? You're making eye contact with that person, and you're letting them know that you're at the table. You're saying, hey, I'm here touching this. Like, are we cool? And it's of course it's fine, but also for the person at the table, they have a lot going around them. There's people everywhere trying to ask them questions or whatever. It's a good thing to do to let them know, hey, I'm standing here looking at this knife. Because sometimes I've seen this happen. Makers look down at their table and they go, oh my God, there's a knife missing. And someone's holding it, but they just didn't ask. And the maker's like, there's like a 2-second heart attack. And then it's like, oh, it's right there. You can avoid that simply by just saying, hey, do you mind if I take a look at this?
Yeah, that way you don't have to worry about someone accidentally stealing a knife off of your table.
Right, exactly. So show etiquette, just always ask. It's fine no matter what grade the knife is. Full custom production, $20, $1,000. Just, again, show etiquette. We do this a lot. We go to a lot of shows. Have good etiquette. So Friday was great. There was a good show, swell of people coming in. Friday wound down. Felt like for me, Friday felt like a very long day, but I think that's just because it started so early. Post show on Friday, went out with the Microtech crew, went up to the Capitol Grill, and ended up at Gracie's Bar. I'm just saying bar because I think it was something else, but it was something I don't remember. So it was Gracie's Bar. It was like a bar and pub. That was cool. Chuck went to, what did you do for dinner?
Spencer's,
that's
Spencer's
right.
Steakhouse with my son, Steve Garson, and John Gray.
There we go. How was the food at Spencer's?
It was good.
Was it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Surprisingly, my son ate a 14-ounce steak all by himself.
Look at that, huh?
He doesn't do that at home.
You're not going to get big unless you eat big, my guy. That's the trick, okay? That's the trick. You got to do that. Salt Lake at night was a very interesting dichotomy walking around. So for those of you not familiar, Salt Lake is a hugely expanding city. Skyscraper cranes every block or so. You've never seen so many skyscraper cranes, and we travel around a lot. I've seen some cities in my day, and you usually see one or two. Boston, Cambridge might have one or two skyscraper cranes. No exaggeration on my part. Salt Lake had a skyscraper crane more than you could count. Everywhere. South City, North City, West City, East City. I mean, that place is expanding fast and in a big way up. So at night, walking around, so you have this like clean, fresh architecture paired with fresh, not so clean homeless people everywhere. Lots of homeless people. Not complaining. I am not complaining about homeless people, but there were a lot of them. If someone was going to complain about the homeless people, that would have been the place to complain about. So we didn't really, there were some moments. There were moments.
The walks at night interesting.
Yeah. We were walking around with the Microtech crew and definitely walked through a couple of packs. Is that impersonable? No? Hordes? No, that's not right. Groups. A couple of groups of homeless people. Little daunting, but it's fine. Nothing that someone from the East Coast can't handle. But skater kids and homeless people, it was very interesting. I had a great experience either way. It's just you have this very strange dichotomy of like a fresh, clean city, and then like you have these two. Well, I don't care about skater kids. I don't really care about homeless people either. But it was just very, very odd, especially because it gets freaking cold in Salt Lake City. Like it gets really cold.
I think they really haven't started to migrate south yet to
Is that what they do?
Arizona or California where it's not as cold
Right.
for the winter.
I know because like Santa Monica makes sense for homeless people because it's so warm. I'd be homeless in Santa Monica. If
Or
someone was like,
Miami.
right? Do you want to go homeless in Miami? Sure, yeah, absolutely. Do you want to be homeless in Salt Lake City? No, that gets almost as much snow as New England does, and it tends to be sometimes colder because of the winds that cut through the valley. So that was mind-boggling. Anyway, Saturday. Nick, did you have any notes about Friday night that you wanted to share with us?
I don't remember much. I was tired.
Yeah, we went to the Capitol Grill and we went to Gracie's. And then we ended up back with the hot crew on Friday night. And then Saturday morning. So Saturday morning, if you weren't hip to this, there was an eclipse this past weekend. It was a complete solar eclipse during the day. We were actually in the path of totality in Salt Lake City. This was like a perfect viewing area. I think the prime spot was technically like 15 miles south of Salt Lake, maybe Dover or something. Or Portland, I don't remember, some town south of Salt Lake, but we were in Salt Lake. So Friday night and Saturday morning, all over the highways, there were signs like warning eclipse traffic, warning eclipse traffic. We didn't really hit any traffic. I got to see the eclipse. I think you guys might have been inside.
I went outside a couple
You
times.
went
I got
outside.
to see it.
I didn't see it because it
Maybe
happened
it's
like 30 minutes after doors open. Like,
Yeah. Okay. Dude, if I had traveled specifically for the eclipse, I might have been disappointed not to go Yelp on nature here and leave a 3-star review. We were already there, but it was
There's a lot of
cloudy.
cloud cover.
It was cloudy. I had my sunglasses on. I threw my sunglasses on. I had my cell phone. I had a perfectly fine time viewing the eclipse. A little bit of cloud cover clouded over the piercing UV rays that would normally burn your retinas. So, yeah, see? Right. There's a slight benefit on the cloud cover.
in hindsight, because the show was like completely dead the first hour and a half, I wish I just set up at 11 and went outside, looked at that, then set up.
Should have gone outside.
But yeah, I don't really think about that.
I forwarded my pictures to everybody. Chuck, I see you posted that
I posted
on
on
Facebook,
Facebook.
and you were like, "Oh, look at this picture." I took that.
I didn't say I took it.
No,
I
that's
just said,
fine. No, that's fine.
On my way home.
He left it
That's
to the
it.
imagination.
Right, exactly. So the eclipse on Saturday morning was cool. I think that did delay a lot of entries because people were outside. So I was right outside the Salt Palace, and there were groups, or hordes. Was it? There were hordes.
Okay.
There were hordes of people.
Lots of people.
Not the
Gatherers.
homeless people, just regular people everywhere. And they were all looking at the eclipse. So they had their little boxes and their sunglasses and their telescopes. So that was cool to see people, still interested in what's above us, not only what's in front of you on your screen. Nature's crazy, kids. You get out there once in a while, you'll know what I'm talking about. So post eclipse, then we had doors. There was a fair amount of people on Saturday rushing in. I would say it was a slower build on Saturday than on Friday. Does that sound right?
That's accurate.
Okay. Because like on Saturday there was a huge rush, and then it was like, whew. But then by like 3:00, I think the show was popping by like 3 on Saturday, which kind of makes sense. People kind of like,
Yeah, like after lunchtime,
Lackadaisical.
the show picked up pretty good on Saturday to where I think it was more people than Friday.
yeah, I'd say that. How was everybody's Saturday show, Chuck?
It was a little slow. Did a
Little
little bit
slow?
of business. Sold a couple of knives. But my son had been there with me on Friday and Saturday. And by Saturday, he was a little bored. So we packed up a little early, and he's really into playing guitars now. And so there was a store called the House of Guitars. And we went down. He got to play some guitars he'd only ever seen in pictures, like some BC Rich Warlocks and some Jackson Flying Vs. And so he had a good time. It was really funny. There was this older gentleman in there, and we're talking to him, and my son wanted to try out a guitar. He's like, "Okay, go pick out the one you want to play. I'll get you a chord, set you up on an amp." And my son walks up to him and goes, "So do you want something with a clean tone or something with a little dirt on it?" And my son's like, "Something with some dirt on it." So he plugged in and he played for about 45 minutes.
Oh, okay.
And then a variety of guitars, and then we left. We walked back to the show, and stopped and had some dinner along the way. Met up with
Nice.
you guys.
Yeah.
and pretty much left and headed to the airport with you.
There we go. That sounds fun. I mean, right, the guitar thing for him, that sounds like that was the culmination of his trip. It was fun to hang out with him. I forgot how like horrible teenagers were. No, I'm just he's not that bad, but I don't remember being quite as like his level of blasé is so high where it's just like anything could happen and he's I don't care.
Pretty much.
I'm like, bro, there's like weapons everywhere, like there's cash everywhere. And he's I don't care. Like, okay.
Pens, like
All right.
materials.
He came by my table and grabbed a chicken sandwich and just left. I was like, "Who the hell is that?" He's
Yeah,
like,
I was
"That's
like-
Chuck's son."
I was
I
like,
was like,
I got some chicken sandwiches. You want some chicken sandwiches? He's like, yeah. I'm like, bro, I'm not gonna get it for you. Like, you got to come to my table and like you can have it, but I'm not gonna. I'm like chauffeur your food over here. He's like, all right.
Yeah, he took it back to the hotel and then took a nap.
Yeah, he was like, he like sat down at the table for a minute with a chicken sandwich. He's like, tired. And Chuck's like, what the fuck? Like, all right,
Pretty much.
fine.
I'm like, "You're 15.
Fine.
Like, you should have more energy than this." But Saturday was good. He was up and awake and actually enjoyed being there. And,
That's good.
talk to people.
Bonding.
Oh, absolutely.
Bonding.
Yeah.
I'm scissoring my hands together because like bonding. That's I don't know.
It's good to spend time with your kids because, in
Yeah.
a couple of years, he's going to be off to college
That'll be it.
and he'll be gone. And then it'll just be me traveling to shows again by myself.
Chuck can't wait for that. Nick,
Yeah, we didn't see Chuck at all. Usually we see him
Yeah.
we didn't see him after show hours at all.
We can't go out. He's got the kid with him.
Yeah,
It's like,
he's
you
not
go-
old enough to get into a bar.
no party truck. No party truck with the kid around. Like, jeez.
That's okay.
That's all right.
It's
It's-
safer that way.
Okay. Oh, okay. Wow. Oh, there's a threat. Okay. Nick, how was your Saturday?
So that was good.
Was
I would
it?
say 50% on Friday, 50% Saturday. Like I had even sales throughout both days.
Good. Okay, that's always a bonus when people still like your knives.
Yeah, Saturday morning I was just like, oh, and I didn't really think about the eclipse thing, but then yeah, I think there was more people on Saturday after lunch time than Friday, to be honest.
Yeah.
All the locals at least that drove in. I got to meet a longtime collector of mine who never goes to any shows, just because he lives locally. He's like, I'm 15 minutes away, and they're buying a knife, and then shared in his hotel room. I mean, took a picture later. And I realized he has like 10, 11 of my pieces
Oh wow.
over the years, but they came by a bunch of times trying to figure out which one. And eventually made the decision. So at this point, he has 1 to 2 of every model I make. So that was cool to finally meet him, talk to him for I don't know, definitely over 6-7 years. So.
Wow, that's neat. That's a great knife show experience right there. So, someone you've talked to on the internet, talked to maybe on the phone, maybe on text message, and you finally get to meet them in person, and find out that, oh my gosh, you're that individual who's been collecting and supporting, for all that time. That's really cool.
Yeah, he came by a couple of times, just like making decisions, didn't say anything, and after a while, he's like, "I'm this guy." I was like, "Oh,
Hey,
I know you." He's like, "Yeah, usually I go for gray and blue, and then he ended up going for a full gray build. Everything else I made for him over the years is always gray and blue." And then 2, maybe 3 people came by, showed me their users. It's the most users I've ever seen at one show. Usually, it's always usually one. Blade Show was unique with like a destroyed knife, but Blade Atlanta, that is. They showed out 3 people that came by with actual proper heavy users. I was like, I'm kind of actually impressed.
nice.
Like that rarely happens.
All right, okay, that's good. Good to see the knives getting out there, people's hands, and they're beating them up. That's good. That's the idea. That's good. All right. On Saturday, I was talking with a whole bunch of people. That's right. That's what I do. And so I was at the show on Saturday, and I had a moment, and I was dropping Nick's knives off at. Actually, I should have done that for you, Chuck. But I was dropping Nick's knives off at the room 105 for the Blade Show Awards. And I had a very interesting experience. I guess most people have this experience. That's not the best organized thing I've ever seen. It's not super organized as well. I would, as an individual who had nothing to do with it, I thought that they would be highly organized. But it wasn't, which is fine. We love Blade Show people. They're great. They're very busy. They have a lot going on. So I'm at the Blade Show Awards. I'm looking around. And I'm checking out the categories. I'm trying to understand why they're missing categories. There's no category for an automatic knife. So that seemed like a great opportunity to run over and harass Henry, the owner of Blade Show. I saw him walking around on the floor, and I said, "Hey, Henry, this is who I am. I advertise Blade Magazine." And at first he was like, I don't know who you are. Like, who are you? Like, what are you talking about? Like, he looked at my name tag and my name on it, and he's like, and I'm like, I advertise in Blade Magazine. I'm PBK. And he's like, oh, he's like, you're the guy with the crazy advertisements. I'm like, yes, that is me. He's like, I love your ads. I would love to get some posters of your ads. Like, he's like, you get it. He's like, those ads are like, I'm like, that's the point. Like, you open Blade Magazine and you stop on the ad and it catches you because it's not just like, I don't know, some kind of ghillie suit with like a tactical knife or, like whatever, like some guy with a rifle, it's not just a picture of a knife. Anyway, I digress. So I was like, Henry, a lot of my friends make automatic knives and, they make up, whatever percent gross of the sales in this room. And, we talked for a minute and he thought it was a great idea. He said, you know what? You're absolutely right. I don't know why we don't have a category for automatic knives in the Blade Show Awards. So I want you to spearhead that and work with my team. So I'm excited about that. PBK will be sponsoring the new automatic knife award for Blade Show. Hopefully we'll have that up and running, fingers crossed, by Texas. So that's cool. So hopefully we'll have a subcategory for side opening and out the front auto. The world of automatics is completely and wildly diverse, but I think it's best to just start there with 2 main styles of autos, which kind of cover, you get your scale release, you got your whatever. All that can sort of fit into the folders or your side openers, and then OTF, single action and double action for now, can just kind of, they'll have to share the spotlight there a little bit. Also, there's really, at the moment, there's not that many people making, there's there's only Heretic's the only one who makes a single action out the front. No one currently makes a custom single action out the front that I know of. If I'm wrong, you should call me because I'll buy your knives, but not that I know of anyway. So I'm excited. That should be good. Hopefully we'll have that up and running at Blade Show Texas, and then obviously definitely for Blade Show Atlanta. That should be pretty fun.
You're going to do a custom and a production auto category?
Yes, right. So technically four will be, right. So it'll be auto, and then it'll be auto, production, and custom, and then it'll be auto, production, and custom either out the front or side opening, and then auto, or auto, so there'll be 4 technically. Okay. Yes. That'll be great. So I'm excited. I think that's great recognition for everybody working in the field. Automatics are seeing a groundswell right now, both in custom and production. Nick is working on a custom with Menevade. Obviously, Chuck, you've been making custom switchblades for a very long time, but they're seeing a groundswell, and there deserves to be more of a spotlight on that specific area. So I'm excited to bring that to the table and work with the Blade Show team to get that off the ground.
Yeah, even OTFs too. Like, there's a lot more these days. I was talking to Henry as well, and he was looking at my auto. He was like, I really like that. Then he came by to talk about the Ragnarok. He saw it in the Judgments, and he really liked it. He came by to check it out again, and then checked out the Comrade. And he was telling me about talking to you about the awards for autos. And I was telling him they should be separate. There should be a side opener and OTF. And he's like, "Why do you think that?" I was like, "They're 2 totally different knives." And these days there's a lot more OTFs, or I think it could hold up its own category because there's a decent amount that would be entering for that nowadays. And it's just, again, 2 very different knives. And I joked with him, I was like, if it just won category, I think Gavin's just going to win it every year.
Yeah. Right. So, okay. So I was talking to them yesterday about this. Right. So getting into specifics about the award, right? So you get into mechanisms, and then you get into like fit and finish of that mechanism, which would be some of the criteria for a deadlock being right now one of the only custom blade playlists out the fronts. So if you put a deadlock, say against, a custom combat Trudon, then you're looking at merits of the mechanism versus merits of the fit and finish. Obviously, and I don't think Gavin would disagree, the fit and finish on a combat Trudon, like mirror polished combat Trudon, looks nicer than your standard stonewash deadlock. But however, the deadlock has 0 blade play and the combat Trudon does. So, right, there's some specificity there that we'll need to go over some of the judging panels with. But I'm excited. I think it's great. I'm happy to see Blade Show taking an interest seriously in automatics. Saturday, I think the highlight of Saturday was certainly going to Crown Burger to get a pastrami cheeseburger.
Oh, before the flight. That was miserable. That's the first time I've ever done that.
So hold on. We had a red eye, which is what Nick's talking about. We had a red eye. All 4 of us were on the same flight, the same red eye, back to Logan Airport. We went to Crown Burger, which was really good. It's a local establishment, and I would say standby in the sort of Salt Lake area. It's a small chain. It was really good. I liked it. They had fry sauce, which was ketchup and mayo, which was invented in the Salt Lake area. It's a very Utah thing, fry sauce. But we got that before going to the airport, and yes, I agree. Go ahead, Nick. It was terrible. Go ahead.
Terrible.
No, go ahead.
I don't mind red eyes, but like I'm used to flying. Like if it's a Sunday red eye and I just go right into work on Monday, that's fine. But like close up show, wrap up, like pack everything, repack your luggage because like you have to. Like I have a check bag, so stuff has to come out of my backpack. Like repack in essentially a parking lot in the middle of a weird area in the dark, and then go right to the airport and then fly back, and then you're there Sunday morning back home. And I'm like.
I don't mind it. It
was nice to rest, but I don't know. I just
it was nice to get home at 5:00 in the morning on a Sunday, go to bed, take it, sleep for a few hours, get up, and then start your day. As opposed to otherwise, we would have been home Monday morning at 5 a.m., fight traffic going home, and I would have had to bring my son right to school.
Yeah,
and I don't think that would have went well for him.
I was on the same page. It was pretty rough. I did not sleep on the flight. I'm not a good plane sleeper without drugs. But like. I was happy to get back on Sunday. I get my Sunday stuff done. It wasn't great. It made for a rough 24 hours of travel, but rather get back on Sunday than Monday, because then Monday would have just been a shit show zombie at work.
I feel like you just didn't sleep on a plane because you're really mad about the dogs.
You were crabby.
I might have been crabby.
He was so pissed about the dogs.
Okay, here's the thing.
Crabby.
There was a lady in our fucking flight.
The one with the Chihuahua.
Yes, the fucking lady with the god. This
two
lady
Chihuahuas.
They
gets
kept yelping like just little
this
barks.
lady gets
like,
on the
every
plane
once
with
in a while.
2 chihuahuas, a chihuahua in each bag.
Mhm.
It's not possible for you to not travel with puppet canines. Leave the dogs at home. And then Nick at the last minute changes his seat. So Nick's like, oh, and then the guy's like, this stuff. And he's like, oh, my wife with the baby. Like, give a shit about your offspring. So Nick moves. And then beside me, there's this guy and his wife who were traveling with like a 9-month-old infant going to Miami.
Would you want me to say no? Like
No,
he
I
looked
just-
at me with the baby, and I was
know,
like,
I know,
okay, yeah,
okay,
you
I
should sit
know.
together.
But then, like, the kid was making noise the whole flight while we were landing in Logan. It passes out, and the guy looks me right in the eye because, like, he knows that I've been trying to on and off sleep. He looks me in the eye, and I'm just like, I see you. I see your child. She went to sleep 10 minutes before flight, like, before we landed. And, like, the mom just passed out. I mean, like, that's endearing. They sort of, the child and the mom, like, pass out on each other. But I'm just like, the kid's quiet for, like, 10 minutes while we touch down. And then, like, the seatbelts come off, and it starts making noise. And I'm like, So yeah, might have been a rough flight back. I had a great Sunday though. Got my
Maybe
laundry
you
done.
need some noise
whatever.
canceling headphones.
I needed to take an edible, but I didn't do that. I did not do that because
I took all the edibles.
yeah, I should have taken an edible, passed out, and that would have been fine. But because of the red eye, I was worried that I was going to wake up and not be sober enough to drag Nick through Logan and figure out the train situation. So we also parked at Alewife this time. Took the trains, which that's fine. I don't know, it's so much cheaper that way. And there's really low stress if you get there on time. The red line was just running slow, but not a big deal. So, yeah.
Yeah, except the time where we were confident the train bus wasn't
Oh.
coming, then you pulled me away
Yes.
from the bus to get an
Yeah,
Uber.
yeah.
Then the bus came, we missed the
So-
bus, and then you canceled the Uber, and we had to go away from their bus.
On the website, it said the Silver Line didn't start running until 6:30. It was like 5:45, so I was like, oh, I'll get an Uber. So then I got an Uber, and I had to cancel the Uber because the guy couldn't find us. None of this matters. It's not important. But but then the board inside Logan was like, oh no, the Silver Line will be here in 5 minutes. We're like, son of a gun. So we missed one full rotation of the Silver Line.
Next time, park at the hotel where I park and just
Mother-
Uber to the airport. It was $36. 15 minutes in, they'll drop you off right there at the airport. No trains, planes,
just-
or automobiles.
Well, I also was happy to take the train this time because I thought I would sucker us into going to South Street Diner at South Station, but I was too frustrated to do that when we got to the South Station. I was like, oh, fuck it. But I haven't been there in like 10 years.
Yeah, I just passed out in the car.
Yeah, I drove. So then I drove home and I watched Nick pass out and snore the whole way home. And I'm like, I'm going to strangle you. I'm going to fucking strangle somebody.
Yeah, I drove to the airport.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, was Blade Show West, Salt Lake City. It was a good show. Everybody had a good show. Sold some knives. Had a fine time. And we're going to be... Are we signing contracts for Blade Show West next year? Ooh.
Probably. We'll see.
Okay.
I'm on the fence.
All right. There you have it, folks. We're on the fence.
I mean, it was a good show. I can't complain. People ask how I did. I said, well, I could do better, but
Sure.
I could also always do worse.
To
So
be
I was
fair,
also
yeah.
thankful for what I did at the show.
I think some of the show might have been the fact that the world is like low key falling apart. Actually, not low key. The world is like high key falling apart from the news from a couple weekends ago, which we're not going to talk about because if you're listening to this, you know what we're talking about, and can't get away from it on the news right now. So I think that might have been
Yeah.
a rough year for that, considering the financial situation.
I like to go again just because I'd like to actually go for longer.
Okay.
And when it's not cloudy, because I never actually got to see. This was the first time I've been to Utah. I'd
Yeah.
actually like to adventure in Utah.
We had talked
It's
about
the
that.
only reason I'd ever have to go to Utah. So,
Yeah, there's no real.
I mean, last year I went out 2 days early. I went fly fishing for 2 days
Right.
with Timote from Blade HQ.
Yeah.
So I got to see a lot of the scenery. Went to Sundance, which used to be owned by Robert Redford, where they started the Sundance Film Festival, and it's also a restaurant. And Timote said we missed the foliage by a day or two.
Oh,
Said
really?
it had been really windy up until Wednesday or Thursday, and all the leaves got blown off the trees. But otherwise, the foliage would have been spectacular.
All right. Okay, so maybe we'll do it next year. Maybe we'll plan ahead a little bit better, but being a little less of a time crunch. Though the show placement is a little tricky with everything being so side by side these days. But we digress. That's for another episode. What's up next would be Nashville. Nick is not going. I'm going to Nashville to buy knives. Chuck, you're sort of maybe not going to Nashville, maybe going to go to a collab.
I might go do some collabs with Kirk Mayberry
Gotcha.
and then go hang out at the show on Friday.
Cool.
And then probably fly home Friday night.
All right. Awesome. Well, we'll see what happens in Nashville. Next up is DB Blades from Australia. I actually have to email him because I don't understand how his time zone works. But we'll be looking forward to that. That'll be, I think, next week or the week after that. Yeah. So, everybody, thanks so much for listening to another episode. Stay tuned. We'll have more content for you on the way. Gentlemen, I'm going to sign off. This is Jeremiah. I will talk to you guys next time.
Nick from NCC Knives signing off.
Chuck from Chuck Adrice Knives signing off.
Thanks, everybody. Bye. To find out more about myself, Jeremiah Burbank, you can email me about the podcast at bladeologypodcast@gmail.com or my work email, info@pvk.com, or you can check out the website, www.pvk.com. To find out more about my co-host, Nick Chuprin, you can find him on Instagram at NCC Knives or on his website, www.nccknives.com. You can also shoot him an email, contact@nccknives.com. Chuck Gedraitis can be found on Instagram at Gedraitis Knives, which is GEDRAITIS. You can also find Chuck on Facebook with his Facebook group, Chuck Gedraitis Handcrafted Knives, or shoot him an email at gedraitisknives@yahoo.com.